seat.
Doris speaking now. On
Honorable
what
Doris,
rule?
Take your seat. She spoke because I recognized her. Sit down, Honorable Dozy. And will you... No, don't do that. We have a long day, actually. Don't do that. Honorable Malema.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like you to call Honorable Doris to order, because don't do that when you are presiding over Parliament. So what she said, she was out of order, and please rule
Honorable
her
members,
out of
please,
order,
I
please.
can hardly hear, please. Honorable member. Okay, honorable members, I see you at the hand, but I will not allow you to speak at the back. I won't allow you for now to speak. Allow me, honorable members, is empowered to exercise her discretion in determining the voting method to be employed to decide questions before the House, where no voting method is prescribed in the rules of the Assembly. In deciding whether to have an open or secret ballot on the vote, the Speaker must basically maintain transparency and openness. For the Speaker to deviate from the principle of openness, it must be established that an open ballot is not likely to ensure effective accountability, and that circumstances exist that would most likely prevent a free expression. That the request for a vote by secret ballot and have communicated my decision and the reasons for my decision in this regard. It is sufficient, please lower your hand until I finish, please. It is sufficient to reiterate that a parliamentary environment is always a highly between or even within parties. I do not believe that the atmosphere is so toxified or so highly charged that members of the Assembly would be prevented from exercising their vote on this question in accordance with their conscience, using an open voting process over the last days. I further wish to reiterate that an open and transparent procedure followed by the Assembly to exercise this important decision on the Section 89 Independent Panel Report can only bring about public trust and confidence in the National Assembly and our democratic vote by secret. Honorable members, order. Yes, Honorable Shivambu.
We want to stand to reject that decision and then vote or not. So we are proposing, family, that before we proceed with this process, we should be allowed to vote on your decision now.
It's a point of order, Honorable Shivambu.
It's an issue that we
There
have to
is a
then deal
point
with
of
it in
order.
that particular fashion. Please.
There's a point of order. Honorable member, yes, you have the floor.
We are proposing division of the House on that question.
Please take your seat. Honorable member, behind the mic here, behind the podium. Yes, you may have the floor.
Thank you. And sub-rule 2, read in conjunction with rule 92, sub-rule 11. Speaker may make rulings, and all members are obliged to comply with the rulings. The ruling of the Speaker cannot be questioned, challenged, or questioned in this House. I so move. Thank you.
Speaker.
I thank you, honorable member.
Speaker.
I've seen you and I noted you. Take a seat. sit down, take a seat. Honorable Zungula, take a seat.
Don't shout.
Take your seat. I
Don't
will give you an
shout.
opportunity. Take
shout.
a seat. Zungula, take your seat.
Do not shout.
Take your seat.
Do not shout.
Shouting, actually, Honorable Malema. You are. You are. You know what? I am not going to allow you to disrupt this session. I will not. You can rest assured. Honorable Zungula, thank you.
Speaker,
Honorable Malema, please provide leadership. You shouted first. Salapansi, Tula, Tula. Take the floor, Honorable Zungula.
Speaker, I think the first thing you must not do, Speaker, do not note me and then you note other people, is that the powers of Speaker do not belong to you personally. You must not use your personal views on how a decision is taken in Parliament, because the powers that you have belong to the people of our country. The Constitutional Court ruled that under such circumstances, there are threats, Speaker, that members are going to be expelled.
Order, honorable members. I can hardly hear. Honorable members, please allow me. I have to hear. I can't hear. Yes, Honorable Zungula.
So there are existing threats, Speaker. The chairperson, who is the minister, is here, can confirm that he has threatened members of Parliament enough to grant a secret ballot. We've got Honorable Nyonso, who also received a death threat. He's gone to the police station to open a case. Why don't you think that is reason enough to grant a secret ballot?
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable Mr. Klaso, there's something wrong with the system. Honorable members, I have made a ruling, honorable members, and I propose that we proceed with and allow for parties to express their views on the matter, and once done, already uttered, Honorable Shivam. The point is, all parties who had written to the Speaker parties to a decision of the National Programming Committee, which we had, were majority opposition party, that we should go the route of a roll call. And what I have since done as Speaker, honorable members, please allow me to finish, because I am recapping the events of the. Subsequently, I received letters from various parties who vote will be conducted. And therefore, honorable members, you must have noted that in those honorable members, that I am requesting that we proceed with the debate on this matter. The report is before you. You have all read the report, and I am sure you'll engage on the contents of the report. That is all, honorable members, I am proposing. Point of order, honorable member.
Thank you, Chair. There is a point that is being raised here, that by the time you wrote a letter, after your letter, who received death threats and a case has been opened, and you can't proceed as if there's not been this development between your letter and now. We understand the threat by this minister who swallowed. There is another threat where members of Parliament have received death threats from the underworld which these people are working with, that if we vote in the opposite, we are going to be killed. That development, when you wrote the letter rejecting a secret ballot, and because there are these developments which were not there when you wrote your letter, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Malema. Honorable members, order. Order. Just as a reminder, I have received the letters which I have received from political parties who are appealing the decision of the NCA, of the National Programming Committee. None of this information was contained. Which was reported to the police. Honorable members, please, man, let's not be rowdy, just listen. Allow me to finish. I have made a determination on the basis of the National Programming Committee meeting which we held last week, right? Now, and I did apply my mind to that. And I took a decision, and now, the police, I am informed by Mr. Klaso, are currently investigating that matter. So that matter right now is not, honorable members. That is what we are seized with now. It is the report before us. Honorable, there was, did I recognize you? Okay.
Speaker, when we wrote to you, this development was not there. And you are correct. You responded to us on the basis of the facts we put before you. Immediately, let's take 5 minutes, go and apply your mind, and come back with a new ruling. People are going to die and you are going to have blood in your hands. Because when they vote against what...
Honorable members, order. Order, Honorable Nhlangwini, please. Honorable members, Minister of Minerals, I do not want to talk to a matter which has nothing to do with me. However, honorable members, can we correct that? There was no death threat directed at any one of you and us by the chairperson. There may have been other things, people with death. I do not recall that. That man you were referring to. Honorable Zungula.
When you responded to our letter, Speaker, you never dealt with the issue of the national chairperson who was threatening members of parliament. In all of your letters and responses, that has not been addressed. That is the first thing. Stating should they vote in favor of the report, their days are numbered. That is last night. Now, 5 minutes to apply your mind again. Please do so. But your decision that the voting method today will be via an open method, that decision is irrational. That decision, Speaker, does not take it. So please apply your mind once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. There's a hand there. I'm sorry, Honorable Member there. Yes, please. Sorry, Honorable Pando. Honorable Member. Oh, Honorable Pando, you may proceed. Honorable Khatebe now is...
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise in terms of the rules. Members to refer to Honorable Dlakude as Doris, which is unparliamentary in terms of the rules. Secondly, you have allowed, as far as I'm aware, there is no chairperson of the ANC in this House. There is Honorable Mandashe, who's an elected member of Parliament. And I would argue Phantom 42 will be proven to be phantom. They are now merely misleading the House and delaying a debate they know they have lost.
Honorable Member, Honorable Members, Yes, Honorable Khatib.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm also rising on the point of order of Rule 85. There were expressions which can only be done through the substantive motion. So I think that there must be a ruling around that. Number 2, Chair, Honorable Zungula is
Order.
Honorable Zungula is not a shop steward of the ANC. He cannot come and tell us how we run our two-member party. Cannot tell a gigantic organization like the ANC how it should run its affairs. So we must get off. We must deal with this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. That I did not hear. Maybe it was at a time when there was a problem with the system, and I will therefore study the Hansard. And once I have studied the Hansard, I will rule on the matter. Honorable, I'm sorry, Honorable Member, that I've not, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Sit down, Honorable Kyangi. You did not have your hand up. Honorable Member.
I rise in terms of Rule 92.
Honorable members, please order.
Can you call me where? Come. I rise in terms of Rule 9. Must mention the point in terms of the rules of the National Assembly upon which he rises. Now, there is a request from my far right that some called the African National Congress. It is incorrect for people to speak on our behalf. It is wrong for people to suggest that we have been threatened if they are not bringing that as a substantive motion about some discussions that they are afraid to undertake. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I am now ruling on this matter. And that ruling is that I have, and I will not allow for a continuation of that now. I now rule that we proceed with the debate on the report, honorable members. We now proceed with the debate on the independent panel report, and I now call on the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Somlomo obekekileyo. Somlomo obekekile namalungu eParlamente. Namhlanje amahlo esizwe athentsho kule ngxoxo mpikiswano ngomba obaluleke kakhulu kwimbali yendlu yowiso noqingqo mthetho nakwisizwe somzantsi mthetho malunga nebholo lokubiwa kwemali kwifama kamongameli umnumzana uCyril Matamela Ramaphosa. Kokokuqala ezimbalini zalendlu ukuba sixoxe ngokususa umongameli namhlanje kuya kuma njengomzekelo kwiziphakamiso ezizayo ezinokuba lolu hlobo. Kakade ke elinyathelo lale mibutho iphikisayo libangela ukuba sibe kule ndawo alikho iqela eliqulunqe esisicelo somlomo lasekwa ngabo bangqondo budwirha ukuze liphakamise kule parlamente izindululo zokungamthembi umongameli kwaye liphakamiso sokungamthembi umongameli bekhokhelwa ngumbutho wamalungu amabini umhlekazi obekekileyo uzungula oko ezungula ichele wangena wazungula ichele kusuka ngo2019 ngo2022 oko wazungula ichele funda imigaqo yalendlu yowisomthetho lengxelo ayibopheleli kwinkqubo yomgaqo somlomo obelekileyo nantoni na esiyenzayo kule ndlu kufuneka ibe semthethweni kuba sithi abaqulunqi bomthetho asikwazi ukukekela ke siphumo esithile kudala sibacenga ogxa bethu into yawa ukuba ngaba nifuna ulawulo makubhekwe ebantwini evotini khona ukuze nibuye nilawule kakuhle Ngoqinisekileyo ke le nkqubo sikuyo ekugqibeleni abanenjongo ezizezinye kule nto sikuyo. Eli gqiza ngokwalo liyavuma into yoba ixesha libe lincinane kakhulu ukuba
Honorable
bakwazi.
member, I'm sorry, Honorable Chief, Honorable Kwangwa.
Okay. Nkosi, thank you very much, Speaker.
Hlala phansi
I rise on a point of order and parliamentary language.
and
Uthe uchief whip zinengqondo zam.
Honorable Chief Whip, will you please withdraw that? Akuna magqwirha apha. Withdraw, Honorable Chief Whip.
Hayi ndizawuthi ngokuzithoba ndiyarhoxa.
Enkosi, thank you. Proceed.
Igqiza ebeliphanda likhokelwa nguJustice Ungcobo. Libhale ingxelo likhokhelwa bubulungu nobungqina obubekwe phambi kwayo. Onto zihlanjiwe bezomthetho abathe besakuyifunda le ngxela bakhwela bezehlela kwigqiza. Thina siyi-ANC siyayihlonipha indima ethathwe leli gqiza. Kwaye asinakuze sihlasele nakanye. Sithi bawenzile zenze bangakwazi usebenza ngokugqibeleleyo. Somlomo obekekileyo nendluleyo yowisomthetho. Igqiza elizimeleyo alikwazanga ukufikelela kunqontsonqa yobungqina bokuchaza section 129 kodwa amaqela aphikisayo athi masiqhubeke thoba umoya sisi. Siyokuzingela ubungqina ngethemba lokuba bungavela ngenye imini. Thina singumbutho wesizwe sithi kungxanyelwe amapolisa kuphanda uvimba woMzantsi Afrika, kuphanda i-NPA, kuphanda umkhuseli woluntu. Masibalinde baphande baqoshelise. Hleze ke emva koba beqoshelisile singabuya size apha kule ndlu sizothetha nto yimbi okwangolo likamongameli lokusa ingxelo kwigqiza kwinkundla yomgaqo siseko. Kodwa asibanjwanga yilonto into yoba singaxoxi. Sithi ingxelo ayigqibelelekanga. Umbutho wesizwe ye-African National Congress ayisekeli ayixhasi le ngxelo. So uba ngaba iza inento ebambekayo sizawuxoxa loo nto ikhona. Okwangoku ayinasihlahla le ngxelo ikhoyo, masivumele kuqhutywe. Iba ngumnqa ke into yoba bonke abantu bafuna ukuthethela ngamalungu wayo isebenze njengokuba nawena amalungu avota ngolu hlobo nifuna ngawo. Yekani ukufuna i-secret vote nizifunele i-ANC. Ulawulo aluthathwa lutsalwe ngomsila, alungenwa ngosango lakwasemva. Ubheka pha ujonga obunye ubungqina esinokwazi ubuxhasa. Mandibulele kakhulu Somlomo.
I thank you, honorable members. Now will be the honorable, the leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 11 days ago, you found yourself to resign. And this wasn't some noble sacrifice to your country. No, you were going to resign from office because the alternative was unthinkable to you and potentially fatal to your pile of money that you had hidden away in your farmhouse. Money that you claim was nothing other than a Christmas Day buffalo shopping combined with some lax admin and poor bookkeeping. But let me assure you, Mr. President, about the origin of the money, why it spent 2 months hidden in your sofa, what you'd intended to do with it, or why you tried for 2 years to cover up evidence that it ever actually even existed. Those questions all remain unanswered. That is how damaging the Phala Phala truth is to you personally and clearly also to your party. And it was only when your ANC comrades reminded you about how the ANC normally deals with these inconveniences, how easily the ANC will your resignation. Satisfied that the protection of your caucus would make the questions simply go away, you decided then to step back into the ring. And of course, we've been here before, and not so long ago. We all sat in this house, debated a dozen motions of no confidence and 1 impeachment vote. We had to watch an embarrassment as shameless MPs all nodded in agreement with the ridiculous firepool video. Our parliament became the August House into a mindless defender of the indefensible. And when Judge Zondo wrote his final report on state capture, he reserved his harshest words for the sellouts in Parliament, who so effortlessly trampled over their constitutional obligations. And we were told, in the wake of the Zondo report, never again would Parliament be declawed and disempowered as it was in those dark days. Not under this president, and yet, here we are again. Then it was in Kandla, now it's Phala Phala. Then it was fire pools and cattle kraals, now it's couches stuffed with dollars. Then it was President Jacob. As long as you got the numbers in Parliament, you can make any scandal go away. And if that's how you intend to vote today, in one unified shield against accountability and oversight, just like you did in the Zuma days, then if that's what you expect and demand of your caucus, after everything we've been through in the wake of state capture and the Zondo report, then you, sir, are no different to your predecessor. Innocent or guilty. We're not weighing up evidence to reach a verdict. That will only happen later. Today is about letting due process, and that it can only be solved by an inquiry undertaken by this House. And that is the test before us today. Have we learned anything from the past, or we cannot afford the turmoil that will come with the president fighting for his political life and his skin? We don't have the luxury of time, and we're in trouble. We have an electricity crisis. We have a crime crisis with our citizens under daily attack. We have an These crises are real, and we need a president with both hands on the wheel, both eyes on the road, and a head in the game. And so, honorable members, you do have a choice today. And the world is watching your decision. And then vote in favor of adopting this report. Thank you.
I thank you, honorable member. The next speaker is the honorable.
Expressing our deepest disappointment in you as an individual who has been celebrated as one of the architects of the Constitution of South Africa. On the 10th of December 1990, to abiding by the rule of law and to protect and defend the Constitution that President Mandela signed on that day. You vowed in front of the world that you will hold today, 26 years after you held Nelson Mandela's hand, lifted our Constitution high into the air. You stand as the greatest enemy of constitutionalism and accountability. As a so-called architect of the Constitution, as a so-called crafter of our democratic dispensation, you are accused of engaging in activities that characterized a criminal underworld. As a so-called champion of accountability to masses of our people, you today avoid scrutiny and questioning like a fugitive concerning. You are so desperate to avoid any type of investigation into the crimes that have occurred at and in relation to a Phala Phala farm that you have decided to spit in the face of the freedoms and institutions so many fought and died people of South Africa to know. Instead of using the process of the impeachment inquiry to clear your name, you have mobilized your party to fight against an attempt to discover the truth of what happened in Phala Phala farm. Mr. President, in the Constitution, you have stashed money in mattresses and allegedly avoided paying taxes. It is now accepted fact that you did not declare millions of foreign currency occupying the office of the President of South Africa. It is an undenied fact that your answers regarding Phala Phala farm are unreliable because they change depending on the audience you speak to. It has become clear that vulnerable staff members of the crimes, staff members who can only operate under your instructions. If you are not blaming staff, you are compromising investigative institutions and casting aspersion on those who make them the levers of state power at the expense of the people of this country. Mr. President, I want to remind you that I want you of surrounding yourself with yes men and women who take the decision you take when it comes to South Africa. I want you that the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers will not be there to defend you when we ask you to account for the decisions you implement on their behalf. Take your very own parliament to court because you have allowed factions to guide your decision-making instead of your integrity and conscience. You have engaged in questionable activities such as alleged laundering of money, the abduction of suspects of crime, the misuse of because you are not in the pockets of your faction or your handlers. We are touching you because we knew that white monopoly capital will use you and toss you aside. Mr. President, you should be ashamed that you have become the enemy of what so long of the Constitution of South Africa. From today, you will be treated like a real constitutional delinquent. No amount of numbers can intimidate us. What if the spy is paid in foreign currencies? Why are the members of the ruling party not concerned to want to find the truth if their president is not in the pockets of foreign agents? As we sit here today, you have an opportunity to choose an individual over the Constitution of South Africa, to choose thuggerism over accountability. But Mandela and said the Constitution of South Africa is above all of us. Today is the same man who's peeing on the Constitution of South Africa. Thank you.
Member, I now invite Honorable, there's a point of order, yes?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm rising on Rule 84. The member who was on the platform, I cannot repeat it myself. He did something, he said he did something to the Constitution. I cannot repeat it myself. Thank you.
Uthini? Okay, thank you very much. Honorable members, please allow me to caution you on your language as you debate. I request you to mind your language as we debate this meeting. I now proceed and I invite Ubaba.
Honorable Speaker, on the 15th of February 2018, our newly appointed president stood before us and declared institutions and weakened confidence in our country's leaders. We should put behind us negativity that has dogged our country because the new dawn is upon us. A shift away from corruption, away from abuse of power, away from unethical leadership appointment. Really wanting to believe in the new dawn, some clung to the hope that the president had nothing, indeed, has a case to answer. The IFP has considered the report of the independent panel, and we believe IFP. We wish to thank our former Chief Assistant Lengobo and the panel he led for there was prima facie evidence that the president indeed has a case to answer. Thus, Parliament should set in motion by the president's party, regardless of the outcome of the next process. Something has broken. That trust was not only to the president, but to the present promise of a new dawn, promising honest leadership. The devil you know than the devil you don't. Because for us, President Cyril at any cost, and in fact, at the cost of our ailing economy. If the president is not for our country, it is patently clear that there are no longer leaders in the ANC who once served this greatest liberation movement until it has been reached. Whatever becomes of the latest stain in the ruling party, we the people.
Member, thank you. I now invite the Honorable Dr.
Speaker, on the 9th of June this year, my advice to the Honorable President was to come forth. The President is on record where he said that he did nothing wrong, that he didn't break any law. So then it is just common sense that if you have nothing to hide, that you. But again, the President decided differently. Now, firstly, there's no doubt that in this whole issue, the decision of the President is not in the best interest of South Africa. In terms of Section 83 of the Constitution, it says quite clearly that the President must uphold, defend, and respect the Constitution. He will avail himself to be accountable to the National Assembly. If we go and see what the Zondo Commission found, it was clearly stated that the President himself apologized to the people of South Africa, saying that they failed to hold the executive accountable. Now, Chairperson, if the President respects the Constitution, he will come forward. And why do I say it's common sense? Yes, you can go to all the courts, you can go to the Constitutional Court, but it is a fact that the President himself said that there was foreign money at his farm. Whether it's that he admitted an amount in foreign currency. Now, Honourable Chair or Speaker, it's common sense to ask them, well, did you comply to the regulations to declare it? It is common sense to ask long. It is common sense to say, well, why did you stuck them in furniture? Those are common sense questions. En die feit dat die agbare president dit nie doen nie, skop hy eintlik die mense van Suid-Afrika in die tande en sê, ek is die president, ek is nie verantwoordbaar aan julle nie, en buitendien wel hierdie verslag aanvaar. Dankie.
I thank you, Honourable Member. I now invite the Honourable Reverend.
I stand here on behalf of the ACDP to support the report of the Section 89 Independent Panel and its recommendations. On the 9th of December 2022, I wrote a letter to the crucial consideration of the panel's report. On the 11th of December, the ACDP's Deputy President, Honourable Wayne Thring, again petitioned the Speaker to allow members a secret ballot article appeared in the Sunday World on the 11th of December, in which Honourable Mantashe was reported to have told and the ACDP believes this reported threat by the ANC's chairperson will prevent ANC MPs, in particular, perform my functions as a member of the National Assembly to the best of my ability, close quote. It is disappointing, Speaker, that a request for a secret ballot for today's debate was not granted, strong-armed into voting their conscience for fear of losing their jobs. Speaker, even if the ANC bullies their members into voting a case to answer, he is yet to tell this House how millions of dollars came to be at his Phala Phala farm and why he did not declare them to SARS, the Reserve Bank, and other financial regulatory bodies. And he must shed some light on who the Sudanese businessman, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Ibrahim Hazim is. Is it true that Mr. Hazim carried the sum of declared at immigration when he entered South Africa? The ACDP calls on President Ramaphosa to stop being evasive and be honest with the people of South Africa by answering the many accountability, transparency, and according to their conscience without fear or favor. Thank you.
I thank you, Honourable Member.
Deputy President and members.
Honourable General. Honourable General.
Okay.
I am not a speaker of the ANC. I am your speaker, by the way. Order.
Section 89 Independent Panel was given the mandate to look into these allegations. We were all on board, and we must now let the entire process not have the capacity to call for witnesses. The UDM therefore believes the four main players in the case, like President Ramaphosa, Arthur Fraser, Benjamin Chauke, and Hazim, must forget what is at the crux of this matter. The fact that there was a large amount of foreign currency hidden in President's furniture and how this cash crossed the advisor to the President, flew in and out of the country to facilitate the movement of illegal funds. It is not sufficient explanation and defense for Hazim Mustafa to purport to have. The South African Reserve Bank would need to have first duly approved the inflow of that amount of US dollars and require such to have been. The Section 89 panel has found that the President has a case to answer. Let there now be constitutionally accountable. Sithi mawubuye uMzantsi Afrika esiwuthandayo emaseleni mawubuye.
Honorable Zungula.
Speaker, this is a watershed moment in our parliament. Parliament today will either affirm that no one is above the law or some people are above the law. It would be a travesty of justice if Parliament takes a resolution that the President should not be given power to investigate the constitutional breaches and acts of misconduct of the President. The Parliament cannot be told to wait for the investigations of the Hawks, NPA, Reserve Bank and SARS. The heads of these institutions are all appointed who elected us to hold the executive accountable. The independent panel report merely states there may be violations to the Constitution. The impeachment committee may agree with the submissions of the Parliament can take is to have the impeachment committee. So all of the things the President is raising in a wrong forum, which is the Constitutional Court, can be dealt with here in Parliament. When Parliament rejected a report from a panel it mandated to look into the matter, a rejection of the report means Parliament is violating its constitutional mandate of oversight and accountability. Parliament can't shield the President is attempting to escape accountability by prematurely taking a non-binding report to court. Mr. Ramaphosa can't want to be a president, yet he is against being held accountable. The President is of the former Chief Justice Ngcobo. If the President and his supporters believe he's innocent and has nothing to hide, why is he fighting against a process that would clear his name? Members who refuse as members who took an oath to be faithful to the Republic, let's vote to adopt this report and establish the impeachment committee. You are made to defend. Vote in support of your accountability. Vote in support of oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today the National Assembly finds itself at a crossroads that Parliament can indeed perform its job in holding the executive to account, or it could fall again into its old habits. If Parliament were today to bring an abrupt end to this impeachment process, it would fly in the face of legally unimpeachable. No person is above the law, and the rules adopted to give effect to Section 89 of the Constitution must take their course. That being said, good respects the right of the President to take irregularities in the panel's work and the report it has produced. To impeach a sitting president, is an extraordinary constitutional act with significant social, political, opportunism, or party factional interests. It would be unfair and unreasonable to haul a sitting president before an impeachment committee while these legal precedents set by the Constitutional Court on the legal questions raised. The situation is therefore a complex one, but the solution, Madam Speaker, is simple. Parliament should today resolve pending the outcome of the President's review. If the President's review fails, the impeachment committee process must proceed. If his review is upheld, the need for an impeachment committee falls away until such time as it has been set aside by a competent court. Equally, it would be irrational of Parliament to proceed to stage 2 of the Section 89 process that achieves this sensible balance. Two binary options are neither sensible, practical, nor potentially are lawful. Thank you.
I thank you, Honourable Member.
Speaker, Honourable Speaker, what we have is the panel report. And I think what is not in question is that the President cannot overlook the fact that there's an application before the Concord to review the findings of this particular panel. To say particularly to the ANC, whatever happens in your party affects the entire country. The hate that exists, destroying yourself, but you are destroying this entire nation. Yes, it's true that many people want the president out, and for different reasons too. There's no doubt about it. Some for their own selfish reasons, others for his position, others for avoiding prison. Is a report, and that report must be adopted here today. What we will not agree with, however, I want to reiterate, is the impeachment. You cannot accept a report, adopt a report and implement its findings. At the same time, in this case, the president is questioning law. So let us also treat the president equally. It's his constitutional right to take the matter on review, whether we like it or not. And I know it's not going to satisfy all of us, but on review, and that is what he is doing. What we believe is happening today, this could have been delayed pending the outcome of that review. All that is happening today, we are wasting millions to implement the findings. All that is going to happen, the president will go to court and interdict this proceedings, and it will come to a standstill. So while we will support the adoption of this report, we don't believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Sheikh. The Honourable, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services.
Thank you very much, the individuals who compiled the report. We will differ with them with respect. The President has exercised his rights to take the report on review. The opposition parties that are criticized, the President, like any South African, has a right to exercise his rights. The opposition, they must also respect that right. Accountability in this House means that the economic freedom fighters versus the President of the Republic. It did not say that we must not scrutinize the report. The report says that we must debate, we must engage, and decide whether, through this debate, it is not true that by rejecting the report, we are not holding the President accountable. The debate itself is that process. Even the judgment in Kandla said that the Parliament will then debate, consider, deliberate, reject, or accept the report. That is what we are going to do. As the ANC, we do not be patient. I will come with them very slowly. In terms of the rules of Parliament, in terms of these rules that Parliament has adopted, in terms of 129 GB, we can only commence the impeachment process if sufficient. It did not have sufficient evidence. There are various institutions that are still to conclude investigations, including Honorable Zungula, the Office of the Public Protector, executive issues of their own personal remuneration. The Public Protector and these other 8 institutions have not finalized their investigation. This panel could have requested Parliament to extend like they did once. Zondo requested many times until we got tired, but we still respected his because he wanted to produce a quality report. This panel could not be sitting here doubting the process of the panel, its content and its outcomes.
And there is one clear demonstrable example in the panel's report. They cite a Media 24 and members of parliament, which was not responded to. And they say this Mr. Hazin does not exist and it's not clear how the money came into the country. On the 8th of September, they had to ignore what is in the public domain. The report of the panel still says they doubt if this person exists. But on the 8th of September, before the report was released, News 24 very recently, Sky News, just by the scratching of the surface, confirmed the existence of this person. How do we then adopt this report that did not conclude to get but too low to impeach a sitting president? They compare their report and the process that they undertook with the report of the public protector. They say in the public protector, in paragraph 72, they say with the public protector, they were required to get what is prima facie evidence. They say in contrast to this, they are expected to get what is sufficient evidence. Sufficient evidence is the same. It cannot be the same. Sufficient evidence, it's a higher standard than prima facie. And that's why, even when you go into the Constitution, it speaks about the sufficient evidence. The evidence must be there, it must be concrete. There must be no doubt that this evidence is here and is sufficient to commence this process of the impeachment process. We do not have that sufficient evidence. We do not have grounds of position. I've got very good bad news for you. We will not support this report because it does not have what the rule says it must do. And I want to ask from the opposition, are you going to agree? Because we have now convinced them that there is no sufficient evidence to impeach the president. We now know, Honorable Zungula, free your other members. They must not proceed because there is no sufficient evidence. What is being said and used here is just to blackmail the ANC. That the ANC it does not want its members. The ANC, all members of the ANC, we are here debating because of the Constitution. We are here to hold the president to account because of the Constitution. We are here to hold all members of the executive ourselves to run away from the debate. He will have also interdicted the debate. But the president just took the matter on review to show that he has got grounds. He does not agree with the report. But he does not stop this parliament we are doing. There is nothing untoward. You cannot blackmail us to agree with you that it will only be accountability if it is accepted that there must be an impeachment that we are doing here to scrutinize the report, to scrutinize everything, and we are here saying, in fact and in law, the report cannot stand. Thank you very much. We do not support the report.
Honorable Jafta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In the course of this debate, we will extensively cite the jurisprudence based on our commitment to protect and promote constitutional democracy. That is our default position, nothing else, Honorable Chief Whip. Parliament's independence must be understood against its broad content because in order to safeguard public resources from abuse and plunder, executive power must independently be checked. This independence is grounded in the Constitution, which requires the Assembly. Is an impeachment motion against a sitting president, the Assembly must carry the wishes of the people without fail. Given the office that the president occupies, described by the Constitution, land, close quote, the Assembly members must be able to freely vote on any motion involving the president, Honorable Speaker. The court went further to accelerate our journey towards a peaceful, just, and prosperous destination. Honorable members, the Constitution is what must guide the president. He takes an oath of office, Tisha Delil versus the Speaker of the National Assembly. that no president, however formidable be his reputation or scholarship, can perform any act which is not sanctioned by the Constitution and its limits in the course of performing his functions. Honorable Speaker, our position on this motion is therefore informed by this rich jurisprudence. Accordingly, evidence of the claims made in the panel report.
Thank you, Honorable
I thank
Member.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker, Honorable Matisha.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. The panel's mandate was to, in quote, determine whether there is a basis to initiate impeachment proceedings against its conclusion on what it says are loopholes, inter alia. One, the absence of both written and oral evidence. Two, that in some instances where there is written information, time to collate all information required by the panel to emerge with what one could refer to as the empirical evidence. Now, to quote a few so-called loopholes, in paragraph 80, the panel said is available on Phala Phala issue. It further goes on to say, we believe that the truth of what really happened lies beneath unanswered questions that are foreshadowed by power to excavate beneath the information that we have been provided with to uncover the answers to the unanswered questions. Now, the panel's conclusion statement as hearsay, in particular the information from undisclosed sources. We are mindful of the dangers of hearsay and caution to be applied in approaching such evidence. Now, that is what is there in the panel by Mr. Fraser. This means that the uncontested conclusion that the panel only used hearsay, I must say that it is unfortunate that the panel failed to ascertain whether Rules 3.1 of Members' Ethics Act, 34.1 of PRICA offences like theft, housebreaking versus corruption by President, the panel failed to respond to that question. The panel depended on the media, and I think that has been reported. I propose that we apply both legal and ethical. Government must make sure that we are able to go there so that that which we arrive at and with is something that can be able to be taken forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Speaker, this matter is cut and dried. Speaker, we are debating really responsible, and that he must be probed even further. We in the PAC agree that the state president must face investigation into the Phala Phala game farm shoddy business. It is scandalous. A whole state president not able to explain himself while this abuses the marginal ladder of inference so far makes it difficult to us to avoid looking at the moral scruples of the governing party and its entire leadership. They have certainly lost the aura and gravitas of leading the people. The Tsotsis have been in the liberation movement to fight for the restoration of human dignity and total freedom to a colonized African people. The Africanist pioneers, the founders of the PAC, saw this coming when you adopted the Freedom Charter in Kliptown. The inference were activities. This probe should not sidetrack us from the collapsing economy and dysfunctional state-owned enterprise under their watch. They face a long indictment list as we go to the voting stations in 2024. That is where the masses...
The next speaker is Honorable MGE Hendricks.
Chief Albert Lutuli's 10 political commandments, graciously explained by Dr. Pali Lohola at the recent 16th Memorial Lecture, reminds honourable members of this House of Parliament it's true any theft, but to path the way for a better life for all, to establish a roadmap for peace and stability for the new generation, and not to trample on the graves of those who made the ultimate sacrifice with their lives. Thus, President Ramaphosa is merely a preliminary inquiry that has allegations of 3 or 4 political parties, that has no evidentiary muster. The panel's recommendation comes nowhere to a finding that there was a gross violation of the Constitution to sensational narrative, and it is time for them to sober up. In 2019, on the basis of one man, one vote, the African National Congress, which is now Al-Jamaa-like, won the right to govern. The Parliament are not branches of the African National Congress or substitutes, and the efforts today must certainly be moot. If President Ramaphosa is the nominee of the ANC branches, then certainly the Parliament Authority, the Reserve Bank and others, to see that justice is done. Also, the dereliction of duty by the country's intelligence chief must be firmly dealt with. I told President Ramaphosa when he met with leaders of political parties when the July insurrection broke by the Concord, the no charges against him. President Ramaphosa, if elected by the branch of the ANC, must continue as Chief Albert Lutuli in his wisdom directed. Let us vote the way Chief Albert Lutuli would have wished, not along party lines, but in terms of our oath of office, Constitution. This was common cause before the panel, and they did not find gross violation of the Constitution. An inquiry relating to a motion proposing an inquiry in terms of Section 89 of the Constitution is not supported by Al-Jamaa. Al-Jamaa...
Hendricks. The next speaker is the Honorable, the Chief Whip of the Opposition.
Speaker, much has been said about this vote today. And much will be said here about why this process, despite the fact that about what this vote is not about. This vote is not about impeaching the president. This vote is not about the highly contested ANC presidential race. This vote is not about this vote is about the Constitution that we all swore to uphold and the commitment that we made to South Africans to be lawmakers who respect the rules of this House and by extension, the people who sent us here. You're the president of the country or an ordinary citizen, the laws of this country apply to us all impartially. It is a vote to afford the president an opportunity to have the truth uncovered, an opportunity and innocence about the principle of fairness and the rule of law is simply dishonest. It is undoubtable that crimes were committed on the president's Phala Phala farm and state resources were abused. It is also possibly implicated, especially judging by Minister Lamula's very spirited defense of the president this afternoon. To vote against the recommendations of this panel is to send a strong message to the people of South Africa that choice like this has been faced by this House. Many of you were here and voted to disregard the Nkandla ad hoc report, which detailed the abuse of state resources by the former president of the ANC, Jacob Zuma. You did fact that South Africans deserved more from you. You chose party over country, and today you will make the same choice again. You will choose a cover-up over accountability. You will once again go down. Years from now, people will read about the disdain with which you treated this House. Those who will vote for what is right and not what is politically expedient today will be voting to restore the credibility of this House and admit that you stood firmly on the wrong side of history.
I thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me recognize our number 2, Deputy President Mabuza. The African National Congress has been entrusted with the people's mandate of leading the nation. This is the creation of an equitable and just society. Since the beginning of the 6th administration, strengthening the state institute of socio-economic transformation. Since the release of the preliminary inquiry report by the independent panel on the removal of the president, our nation has been context of the journey and the attempts that have been made. We should recognize that since the beginning of this 6th Parliament, a motion of no confidence to the president was proposed by the ATM since 2019. It was resuscitated, created urgency. The EFF would have repeatedly intended to do the same. The Democratic Alliance has tabled a motion of no confidence on the cabinet, including the president, which was to sponsor a motion for the establishment of the ad hoc committee on Phala Phala theft, itself not supported. Recently, this unprincipled alliance of opposition parties, whose sole objective is to remove the ANC. So, fellow South Africans, as we speak to you today, as the ANC, we are confronted with an opposition that seeks the ANC's demise at all costs through crook and hook to precipitate the nation to the instability of coalitions that a country and a recognition of the people's will, which has given the ANC the mandate to lead the nation. What this unprincipled opposition parties also undermines and does, they do not have confidence in an impeachment process which requires a 2/3 majority to remove the president. The government has to decide whether to establish an impeachment committee. The opposition parties also try to subcontract members of the ANC to be, and they want to be their shop steward, to say you need a secret ballot. Opposition parties caucuses on positions and matters, and so does the ANC. The ANC advances decisions after assessing the balance of evidence, and members of parliament exercise their rights and according to their oath and constitutional obligations. Firstly, the independent panel did not know where the South African Reserve Bank had concluded its investigation. If so, and the outcome of that investigation, they didn't know. Secondly, the independent panel recognized that the public protector is conducting an inspection services, and the panel did not know whether these investigations have since been completed and other institutions such as the South African Revenue Services, the Financial Intelligence Center, as well as Home Affairs. Fourthly, and more significantly, the allegations into these allegations by Mr. Arthur Fraser against the president. And in all of that, we are asked to support a report that is so full of doubt. The panel itself is doubtful about its own work. In paragraph 48 of the report, the panel relating to a motion and thereafter make a recommendation whether sufficient evidence exists to show that the president committed any of the 3 grounds in the Constitution. To determine prima facie evidence, the consideration made is whether any complainant or applicant and factual. The panel in the report is uncertain about the substance of the evidence it received from these 3 parties, EFF, UDF, and ATM, and the president. It is unsure whether the president has committed any acts that constitute a malima. This opposition argues that there are issues of money laundering. Money laundering is regulated by the Prevention of Organized Crime Act, the POCA Act, which defines that money laundering at Section 4 is any person who knows or ought reasonably to have known that property is or forms part of money laundering
as the panel report also does not know the origins of the money found on the president's farm. There is no evidence or prima facie evidence that the source of money is the proceeds of unlawful activities. That is why Rules 129P, concerning the committee, the Assembly reserves the right not to adopt the report or to adopt the report. This is stated in Rule 129P1 that the Assembly will make the final and binding decision relating to any matter dealt with in this rule, and any recommendations made on the Assembly. The ANC does not support this report because the independent panel itself was not convinced that it had sufficient evidence. But having considered the information placed before it, which is insufficient, it disclosed that the president may have committed some violations, and the multiple factors the independent panel raises. The review of the president on this panel report is also informed by the testing of the basis of the recommendations of the panel report. Our disapproval of this report is not to stop accountability by the president. Instead, it does confirm that they have not tested the validity of the evidence as alleged in affidavit of Mr. Fraser. The panel also declared detailed limitations imposed on them by the process, yet their conclusions are not congruent or consistent with the information that they had. On all South Africans not to be conjured up by the media and opposition hype. It's moments like these that we test our ability as a nation to navigate these complexities. These hypocrites think that they have a firm grip on the ANC and its life. The panel test in the rules is sufficient evidence, not prima facie evidence. In other words, the test to be applied is much higher than prima facie, as Honorable Lamula would have indicated. No matter how many times you repeat, it is therefore important that, Honorable Speaker, we go back to the drawing boards and fix some of the defects that we have in our rules. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, now put the question. Are there any objections to the Section 89(1) inquiry? Is there a point of order? Honorable Heron.
Madam Speaker, as I indicated, we wish to propose an alternate resolution in terms of Rule 121(1) of the Rules of Order. May I present it?
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The alternate recommendation or resolution and set aside the report of the independent panel that the establishment and appointment of an impeachment committee is deferred in terms of Rule 129K2, pending the outcome of the President's review, and 2, if the President's review fails, to the extent that any part of the report is impeachment committee must be established and appointed to commence the Section 89(1) inquiry. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Heron. Honorable members, Rule 123 provides that any motion or every motion requires notice. It's a motion for the postponement or discharge of any order of the day. And therefore, Honorable Heron, essentially you are moving that the establishment and appointment of the impeachment committee should be deferred pending the outcome of postponement or discharge of an order, right, of the day in terms of Rule 123(1)(c. Should have been done right at the beginning of the proceedings. As you did not move this motion prior to us postponement motion, but an amendment to the question that has now been put. This amendment is equally out of order in terms of Rule 121(I). In the instance, the question before the House is that Section 89 inquiry be proceeded with. Your proposed resolution, however, asks for the House to decide on two substantive matters. A resolution to postpone the future. As yet, uncertain outcome of a process that is outside the ambit of the National Assembly. The Assembly cannot relinquish its own mandated responsibility in this manner. I rule, Honorable Hiron. Honorable members, I proceed. I will now put the question. Are there any objections to the Section 891 inquiry and the matter being referred to the impeachment committee in terms of Rule 1291? If there are any objections, I now put the question. 9.1 inquiry being proceeded with and the matter being referred to the impeachment committee will say yea, and those against the Section 89 inquiry being proceeded with will say no. Order. I think the noes have it. Honorable Kwahube.
Call for a division, please.
Honorable members, the DA has called for a division. And therefore, we will now, and the bells will be rung for 10 minutes.
The Parliament of the Republic of Saints